right, you guys, so if you clicked on the title, this is not clickbait. I am really going through the luxury makeup that I don't really reach for, and I'm sad about it. I almost went through and added up how much all of this was that I'm tossing out, and I just couldn't quite bring myself to do it. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jody. I'm 54, and I love sharing beauty tips, beauty products, beauty launches, new resources, and certainly tutorials to you guys to help you keep your busy life moving forward as we are now getting older and all that comes with that, from the skin to the hair to the sagginess, you know, all the things. And thanks for being patient. I did not I did not publish a video on Friday, and I normally do that every Tuesday and Friday. But last week was crazy busy. It was a super fun week for me. If you follow me over on Instagram or TikTok, you saw the updates and the Instagram stories where I just shared with you. It was just a busy week of really fun stuff. I was on New Day Northwest here in Seattle talking about some of my favorite beauty devices on Monday. And then on Wednesday, I was shooting a commercial for a local company here in Seattle area. Super fun, but it was time consuming. So I didn't get a chance to visit with you all like I wanted to, but here we are today. Today we're talking about luxury products that I just don't reach for. And I felt this need lately to clean, and you know, spring cleaning is one thing, but for me, in fall, I just know that all the stuff for the holidays is coming, and I can't wrap my mind around that if I feel like I have clutter. So I like to go through all my cupboards, get rid of extra sheets, towels, makeup, all that kind of stuff this time of the year so that I can go into the busy holidays feeling organized. That is what led me to this. And as I started tossing out stuff, I'm like, that is a lot of money I'm just tossing out, but it's just stuff I don't use anymore and I don't reach for it. So if you are thinking about buying any of these products, I will let you know why I don't reach for them and maybe save you some money as well. If you're ready, I'll meet you on the other side of this intro and we will get into it. All right, you guys, sadly, as I was going through this process of just decluttering, it was mostly luxury items that I found I was decluttering. I like a lot of e.l.f. products, as you guys have seen me talk about here on the channel. I like a lot of NYX, especially for the lip liner and eyeliner pencils. NYX are my go-to, always have been. But the majority of the day-to-day stuff that I use is in that mid-price range. So as I was going through and decluttering, it wasn't odd that there wasn't a lot of drugstore stuff because I just don't use a ton of it. I was surprised how much luxury I just don't reach for anymore. And I found that I stay in that lane of sort of the $20 to $40 price point for a lot of my makeup. Now, having said that, that new Chanel bronzing powder that I've talked about with you guys that has the highlight, the blush, and the bronze, that I use every single day, and I still encourage you to get your hands on one if you can, because I will wear that all the way into fall. That's clearly not going to be in this list today, but what is in the list? All right, where do I even start? Let's start with this, and I bought this a couple years ago. This is by MAC. This is the glitter professional eye. I mean, I never even used it. I don't know why I even bought it. There was a time when I thought that this high glitter stuff was really cool, and it still is really, really pretty. I just have found that over the last year or two, my eyes cannot wear this very well. They can't pull it off. The eyes cannot pull off a high glitter, high shine. Now, if I was going to, and I probably bought this for like a special occasion thinking that I would need it, but it's more warm than I use anymore. If you do have something like this and you're not sure how to apply it, NYX has a really good eye lid glue. I would not use an eyelash glue to apply something like this, but in fact, I think I have it. Yes. So NYX has a glitter glue that I would apply. Now I will still use this for some of my, Pat McGrath has some glitter eyeshadows, and I shared with you guys that palette before. But if you're looking for a special occasion, especially as the holidays are not far away, and you do have something like this, then you can apply it and use a glue to hold that in place. I really do like that combination, but I won't be using this anymore. I'm tossing it, but I'll hang on to this, especially as we get through the holidays. All right, and I'm not picking on MAC, but the second product I picked up is the MAC Studio Fix Everywhere All Over Face Pen Crayon. I did highlight this when it first came out. I have it in color NC27, and I don't know why I didn't keep using it, other than maybe this came out about the same time as the House Labs, and I just found that I liked that better. It is a medium to full coverage. It's buildable, and it is a more semi-matte finish. And again, I don't think there was anything wrong with it other than I just didn't reach for it with the House Labs because my skin is more dry as I've gotten older, and that House Labs just gives some nice hydration. But if you're not somebody that needs a lot of extra hydration, then this might be a good option for you. It's just gonna really depend on what kind of coverage you want. It does have a bit of a scent. Maybe that's why I didn't use it before. It almost has is there a lot of fresh ingredients in this? It almost smells old. And maybe this one is. I don't remember when I used it, but I don't reach for it, so that's gotta go. Now the next one is very popular, and a lot of people do still use that, and this is the Laguna Powder Bronzer. Part of why I don't reach for this anymore is because I love their cream bronzer. I think it is easier to apply. It's much easier to blend out, whether I undersculpt or put it on top of my foundation. And I do really like that new Chanel bronzer. I find that this one has a little bit more, it's a little warmer than I would like for a bronzer. And I wore it a lot. I used to wear the Benefit Hulu, and then I switched to this one, and I find that it wears too warm for me. And I don't know why that is. As we get older, stuff that used to work 4 or 5 years ago just doesn't work anymore. And this one just one that does not work for me anymore. And I know it's a cult favorite, but for me, it's just a no-go. All right, the next one is this Instant Matte Pore Refiner by YSL. I really loved this in the beginning. I have another primer in here too that I swore by for the longest time. And then I just ended up going back to the Guerlain. This one, the reason I didn't like it was because I felt like it was too mattifying, and I don't really like a super matte makeup look. I do like a little bit of a hydration, a little bit of a glow, a natural finish, not a dry matte finish. And this YSL just felt like it just matted too much for me. So if you have oily skin and you like a matte foundation and you want something to keep that oil at bay, then I would say this would be a really good option for you. But if you have more dry skin and you want a little bit of a shine coming through, this may just be too drying for your skin type. The next one is this Clinique Lash Building Primer. I talked about this, it's probably been 2 years now, when the lady at, was it Sephora or Ulta, I don't even remember, told me how great this was and that it's very conditioning for your lashes. And there are some good eyelash primers. I just don't find that I wear an eyelash primer at all. So it's not really anything against this Clinique one. It's just, I don't find the value in an eyelash primer. To me, eyelash primer is one of those products that there's only so much you can do with mascara. And I think after makeup companies, beauty companies have made mascara lengthening, volumizing, lengthening and volumizing, there's only so much you can do with mascara. So in order for that product to grow and you can upsell more, it's like, okay, what can you do before the mascara? Primer. What can you do after the mascara? Conditioner. And I think that's where I'm like, mascara alone was fine for me. I don't need a product before and after my mascara to expand the opportunity to sell more products for the eyelashes. So Clinique, that was not a miss on your part. It's just, I think everybody that came out with a primer, I don't see a value in it. If you guys have a good primer, let me know why you use it. Do you really love it? And how often do you use it? Next up, Chanel. This was a blush that I bought because of somebody on YouTube. This is the rose color. And I think it was Lisa D1 wore this, and it looked so beautiful on her that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. Her skin tone's a little bit different than mine. I'm a little more warm than she is, although I like to stay neutral. It is a very beautiful color. I just found that it wears a little, dare I say, chalky. I don't find it to blend out as smooth as like my MAC blushes or even that Dior blush. I find those blush formulas are easier to blend than the Chanel blush formulas. So that one is, I hate to do it too because it's so, I've hardly used it like at all. All right, another luxury product that I really wanted to work and I just don't use it at all is this Charlotte Tilbury Duo. This is the highlighter powder with the bronzing powder. I like her bronzing powders because they're more on the neutral side. They're not as warm, for example. I'll put it next to the NARS so you can kind of see the difference. Here's the NARS and here's the Charlotte Tilbury. I do like that Charlotte Tilbury because it's a little bit more of a contour color, so I find it to be more versatile in a palette. And then this highlighter, I don't use a lot of powder to highlight my face. I use a little powder to set my concealer, and then I'll use a little contour powder. But I don't find that I use a powder to brighten a highlighter. It's just too drying and looks too cakey on my more mature skin. Wherever there's wrinkles, I really try to stay away from more powders. So I don't use this at all. I hope maybe my bonus daughter, she's a huge Charlotte Tilbury fan, she might be able to use this because, again, I barely used it and I hate to waste money, hate wasting money. All right, let's talk about bronzers, contours, and the like. Here is a Dior Backstage. This is the contour palette. I barely use this and I hate to even throw this one away too. I found that I use this more for eyeshadows, and if you're a makeup artist, then this might be a palette to have because of the variety in the different depths of shade for you to get a good contour and then maybe a good bronze on the same skin tone. I just found that none of these were really right. This one's way too dark for me, too orangey. These two made good contours, but it wasn't dark enough to give a contour and it wasn't warm enough to give a blush. And then that takes me back to the same reason I didn't use that highlighter brightening powder in this Charlotte Tilbury one. I just found that I didn't use these. Now, Dior powders do blend out very nicely. And again, this is from the Backstage collection. I do have a couple eyeshadows from this collection that I do find that I wear a lot. Dior's powders, I think, are, when you're talking about a luxury powder, they do blend out really nicely. I just don't use this, and especially now that I found that new Chanel one. So I'll link the Chanel one down below, you guys. It is getting harder and harder to find. When they released it this summer, it came in 3 different shades, and they are definitely getting harder to find. So don't be frustrated with me if you can't find it, but if you can, it is definitely worth picking up. It's big. I'll link it so you can see what it looks like. I did an eyeshadow palette clean out about a year ago. It's probably been a year and a half now that I think about that. I haven't really bought a lot of eyeshadow palettes since then. I've picked up the new Natasha Denona ones. Every time she releases one of her bigger palettes, I have to get it, and I love it. Although I don't need any more at this point. The Pat McGrath Mothership, I absolutely love that palette. I use that a lot. This one by Dior, and I know why I bought it. I bought it because they're all matte and they're neutral to cool tones, which is my favorite shades. And there's some pinks, and you'd think I would use this a lot because you could create different colors with it. After a year, if you can still see the design in the palette, then clearly it's not a palette that I use enough to justify hanging on to. And I think these are like $65 each. So good thing my husband isn't here for today's video. Not that he would care, but still, it's like, yeah, here's like $500 worth of makeup I'm just tossing. So let's add to that. Here is the Tatcha Silk Canvas. I talked about this a lot because I wore this when I first got it, and I liked it because it was smoothing out my pores. And I felt like once I put this on and let it sit for a minute and then put my foundation over it, it did minimize the looks of my pores around my nose. I found, and on my chin too, but I also found that throughout the day, my chin continues to produce oil all day long. It's just in that oily T-zone. And the makeup would almost, I don't want to say it would peel, but I felt like it didn't look as, it looked more peely. It looked more orange peelish on my chin where the oil was coming through on top of this product. It just gave more of a rough texture, and I'd have to go in and smooth it out with a damp beauty sponge and then reapply my foundation. So the upkeep for me on this in oily areas was just not something I wanted to do. If you've got more dry skin and you don't produce a lot of oil, then this is probably a really nice primer. It's just, it works well where you have more open pores. And for me, the pores that I want to minimize are in my oily areas. So if you've got pores you want to minimize and they're in more dry areas of your face, or you don't produce oil where your pores are, then I think you'd really like this primer. I loved it. I just, except for those areas where I got oily, it just didn't work for me. Last but not least, this very expensive Shiseido Future Solutions XL, is it XL? LX face powder. I bought this because of a video that I watched on YouTube by Painted by Spencer. His makeup is phenomenal. I think if there was ever a makeup artist, a professional makeup artist that I wanted to do my makeup, there's so many for sure. But he would be one that I'd say, yes, please, can Painted by Spencer come do my makeup. So if any of you know him personally, that'd be awesome. You could refer him in my direction. Anyway, I purchased this because of his recommendation in a video. I've tried to throw this away probably 2 or 3 other times. I've tried to clean it out. This does a beautiful job, but the Laura Mercier powder, for example, I saw worked the same, and it's about $25 less expensive than this one. It's a very finely milled powder. It has just a touch of color you can barely see. It's called translucent. It's very, very silk. I just didn't find that it worked any better than my other powders that I use. And again, I don't know if it's just because it's so beautiful or because I spent so much money on it that I just have not been able to get rid of it. But it's big. It takes up space in a drawer, especially if you don't use it. So I have to get rid of it. I just have to get rid of it. Well, that's a darn good start in the decluttering category, if I do say so myself, especially for somebody that loves makeup, and I can always justify hanging on to a beauty product that I don't use much longer than I need to hang on to it. But I'm kind of out of that space right now. I'm just in a different season where I want to get rid of stuff. I don't want to clutter, especially going into the holidays. Let me know if you guys have a makeup product that you know you should get rid of it because you don't use it, but you just can't bring yourself to toss it yet. Let me know what it is. I think I've got more that I'm not honest with myself yet to say I don't really use it. There's a Dior eyeshadow palette that the color blue in it is so beautiful that I just can't bring myself to get rid of it. Well, that does it for me today, you guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in just a couple days.